In 7 years of diplomatic service, she had never hesitated. Not once. Not over anything, until the day
Fleet's Sovereign Vyrel-Shan had annexed 3 planetary systems before she turned 30. She had done it through the particular combination of intelligence, patience, and a complete absence of the hesitation that tended to cost other commanders their advantage at critical moments. Her record showed 0 failed negotiations for successful territorial integrations, and 1 incident that the Vethari High Council referred to in internal documents as the Sovereign Resolution, which was a diplomatic term for what had happened when a rival faction had attempted to challenge her authority and discovered that she had anticipated the challenge 14 months in advance and had already arranged the outcome. She did not hesitate. It was not simply a habit. It was, by this point in her career, a structural feature of how she operated. Which was why the young human standing in Bay Corridor 7 was causing her a problem she had not anticipated. His name was Eli Marsh. He was 23 years old, a junior data analyst attached to the Concordat observation team stationed on Vethari Prime as part of the post-treaty integration protocols, and she had been aware of his presence on the station for 47 days in the way that she was aware of everyone's presence on the station. As a data point, a staffing record, a name on a manifest. She had not intended to be aware of him in any other way. The incident that changed this had been unremarkable by any objective standard. He had been working late in the data corridor 3 weeks ago when she had passed through on an unscheduled inspection, one of the habits she maintained to ensure that the station's operational reality matched what her reports told her, and he had looked up from his display and said, "Evening," with the ease of someone who had not been informed that the person entering the corridor was the fleet's sovereign, and who, once informed, had maintained the same register of conversation rather than switching to the formal address mode that everyone else on the station adopted in her presence. She had been in the corridor for 11 minutes. That was not a number that belonged in any of her records, and yet she had noted it. In the 22 days since, she had found 4 occasions to pass through Bay Corridor 7. 2 of them had been scheduled. 2 had not. Tonight was the 5th. He was there again, late again, data display active again, the particular focus of someone who found the work interesting rather than obligatory. He looked up when she entered, and his expression carried the same quality it always did. Recognition, no alarm, and the specific quality of someone who had genuinely not decided in advance how this conversation was going to go. "Fleet Sovereign," he said. It was the first time he had used her title. The previous 4 conversations had not included it. "Mr. Marsh," she said. He looked at her for a moment. "You've passed through this corridor 4 times in 3 weeks," he said. "The maintenance schedule doesn't require it, and the route isn't on the standard inspection circuit." He paused. "I looked it up. The corridor." She had not anticipated that he would look it up. She updated her assessment of him. "You are observant," she said. "I'm a data analyst," he said. "It's occupational." He looked at her with those steady dark eyes. "Is there something wrong with my work?" "No," she said. "Then," he stopped. Looked at her more carefully. "You come here because this is where I am," he said. It was not entirely a question. She had announced the annexation of 3 planetary systems without pause, without revision, with a clean certainty of someone who had done the work in advance and needed only to deliver the outcome. She had delivered difficult news to governors, terminated treaties, redirected the course of 2 decades of territorial policy. She had never, in any of those moments, needed more than the time it took to draw a breath before speaking. She needed more than that now. "Vyrel-Shan," he said quietly. Not the title. Name. He had not used it before. "You can tell me. Whatever it is." She looked at him, this young human analyst in a casual sweater in a data corridor at the late hour, who had looked up a maintenance schedule to understand something he had noticed, who used her name without permission and without apology, who had apparently decided somewhere in the last 3 weeks that she was a person worth being honest with. Eli, she said. It was the first time she had used his name. She had been aware, in the seconds before she said it, of an unfamiliar sensation, the specific weight of a word that carried more than its syllables, that would mean something different after being said than it did before. He waited. I come here, she said, because the conversations in this corridor are the only ones in 47 days in which I have been spoken to as though I might have something to say that isn't policy. He was quiet for a moment. That sounds lonely, he said. It is, she said. Efficient. But lonely. Eli looked at her for a long moment. I'll be here tomorrow, he said. Same time. If you want another non-policy conversation. Fleet's Sovereign Vyrel-Shan, who annexed planets, who had never hesitated, who had anticipated challenges 14 months before they arrived, nodded once, and found that the word that arrived next required no hesitation at all. Yes, she said. Some words are policy. Some are territory. And some, a name said for the first time in a data corridor at the late hour, are something else entirely. Then,